G'day and welcome to the Last Leg Correspondents, where we send real people into the real world to report on some real issues. This week we ask the question, what about England? Now, as Theresa May tries to form a deal with the Northern Irish DUP, while the Scots still talk about Indy Ref 2, and while Plaid Cymru continue to fight for what's right for the Welsh, we want to know why England doesn't devolve from everyone else. Every parent surely longs for the day their children finally leave home. Maybe England is just biding time until everyone else moves out and they get to use the remote control for themselves again.
Basically, England wants to be able to scratch its balls when it wants.
To be fair, you often want to scratch your balls when you want as well, Alex.
Look, surely it won't be long before a populist politician comes along with the phrase "Make England Great Again" and shortens it to MEGA to make it catchy. Personally, I'd love it if England went their own way, because then Australia might have a chance of beating you on the Paralympic medals table.
That problem you've got there is you wouldn't just need to divide England. Because I've looked back on it, and in the last Olympics, Australia lost to Yorkshire. In fact, for Australia to win on the medals table, you'd have to devolve the Brownlee brothers from each other.
I think that making England great again would be the wrong... I just think just make it all right. Yeah, we'll make England OK, that'll do.
Could it happen, though? Could England really break away and form their own government? Richard Gadd set off to find out.
Hello, I'm Richard Gadd.
Gadd.
And I'm here as a correspondent for The Last Leg.
Leg.
About a year ago, I got in a very violent fight outside a kebab shop at 3 a.m. with a man called Bruce. A fight which saw Bruce bite a sizable chunk of flesh out of my shoulder. And it got me thinking, why doesn't England have a devolved government? The question of English devolution is a lot like a pair of exposed 8-year-old testicles. Difficult to face, difficult to ignore, ultimately difficult to grasp. We can see devolution in action today throughout Britain. In Wales, they have the Welsh Assembly. In Northern Ireland, they have the Northern Irish Assembly. And in my home nation of Scotland, we have the Scottish Parliament. So why then doesn't England have an English-only governing body?
I've arranged to meet a leading expert in devolution, and for the last fortnight, I've been training myself to become the most balls-out, no-nonsense political interviewer this country has ever seen.
Did you threaten to overrule him?
Let's see how I get on.
So, I'm here with Professor David Trench.
Not a professor anymore, it's Alan. Sorry.
No, it's okay. Good start. I should have done less karate and more research. Devolution, what is it, who is it, where is it, and why?
Devolution is the name we use in the UK to cover a whole load of different phenomena that are about handing power to subnational bits of the UK.
Okay, that's done. So, for example, if I was to say it comes down to divisiveness and divides. So when I was a kid, me and my sister shared a room, and we fell out once, and we put a bit of tape along the floor. She had the door, and I didn't. So it meant that
you never got out of the room?
Well, I never got. I actually had to piss in the corner of the room, if I recall, and I actually ended up sort of damaging the drywall. So with that in mind, is devolution effectively pissing away the drywall of Britain?
No. The idea of devolution, which it's largely delivered, was to create a United Kingdom that was happier in itself.
Okay, so there are many situations that I would describe as a hot mess. Trump's America is a hot mess. Brexit is a hot mess. Brangelina is a hot mess. Is the question of English devolution then a hot mess?
The English devolution scene is certainly something of a mess. Whether it's a hot mess, I don't know. It's a tepid mess.
Tepid mess. It is clear that English devolution will have both positive and negative consequences for not only England itself, but the entirety of the UK. So then, is the debate surrounding such a subject like a game of tennis? A lot of meaningless back and forth involving predominantly white men? Or is it like a game of rugby? A heaving scrum of divergent ideas which nobody really understands? Or is it like football? To fully understand this complex issue, I wanted to meet with someone who has already paved the way for devolution in this country. Some call them pioneers, others call them dividers. My gran calls them potatoes, but she hasn't been well for some time now. I call them the devolvers. Let's go meet one. I'm here with Michael Russell, Brexit Minister for Scotland and BNP member of Argyll and Bute. Michael, thank you very much
It's not BNP.
Sorry,
It's not BNP. You said BNP.
Did I say BNP?
Yes, you did.
I beg your pardon.
It's okay, let's start again.
SNP, sorry, I've got. It actually genuinely says BNP on the questions. Who did that? Was that me? So we're all human.
It's okay.
Okay, beg your pardon. Where do you stand on English devolution?
If the people of England want to have their own parliament and have self-determination, that's exactly right by me.
So SNP obviously does have its detractors.
Really?
Well, I've got a quote here.
Right.
What would you say to people who say that the SNP are a four-horse party, two stops short of a couple of wheels?
I would say that's about the most confusing description I've ever heard. I'm not sure I even understand it.
Me neither. Let's move on.
Right.
Obviously, it's got this considerably bankrolled by England.
Why is that obvious?
It's go on.
Well, it's not obvious at all. You said it was obvious. Why is it obvious? Because it doesn't happen to be the case.
Some guy was talking about it on a bus, and I
So you form your political opinions in that way?
Oh, it was very convincing. We met an MP yesterday who said there was too much focus in Scotland. So if Scotland are saying there's perhaps too much focus down south, and if the south is saying there's too much focus up north, it reminds me of the sort of phrase, too many pears fall quite close to the mule.
Does it?
Does that?
It doesn't remind me of that phrase, but that's because I've never heard it before.
I think it's a phrase that says that it's just a vicious circle that sort of just keeps sort of going.
Mules can also be vicious.
Yes. The issue of English devolution is a thorny one, and should it happen, the repercussions could be far-reaching and potentially devastating for the whole of the UK. So I thought I'd go meet some of the people fighting for this cause. I'm here with Robin Tillbrook from the English Democrats. Robin, thank you very much for being here today. Why are you for an English Parliament?
Well, it's really a question of fairness. We think that England is not being fairly treated in the current way that the Constitution operates. And the reason for some of that, at any rate, is actually that English taxpayers' money gets used to subsidise Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland.
What are the statistics?
Certainly. The British government is giving something like £2,600 to every man, woman and child on average in Scotland.
Thank you very
more
much.
than is being spent on English people.
But it's going into sort of bus stops and stuff like that.
And, for instance, free education for students.
Free education for students. English and theatre studies. Pointless degree, but free. Do you worry if you keep pushing for more English votes, more English power for English people? Where does it stop? English food exclusively for English people? I don't know about you, but I love a carbonara.
No, we're not going down that route. We're talking about the politics of it.
The politics, so it wouldn't be sort of...
No, we wouldn't be stopping the carbonaras, no.
Carbonaras, no. Would it be fair to say that England, as a result of a lack of devolution, is lacking a political voice somewhat?
Well, that's absolutely right.
It is a sort of very obscure sort of political voice. When I think of a sort of political voice that the sort of England has, I was thinking it sort of might sound a bit sort of like... As we have discussed, English devolution is a complicated issue. It's about national pride. It's about England wanting what the rest of the UK has. But does it promote unnecessary nationalism? And will it lead to further division? And if it did happen, where does it stop? Cornwall are already seeking their own assembly. Where next? Norwich? Preston? Ecclefechan? Will Quincy's kebab shop on my road soon be seeking independence? Will Nigel's nunchucks? Pam's prams? Only time will tell. But one thing's for certain, there are still plenty of hoops to go through before the final buzzer sounds on this issue.
Thank you, Richard. Richard Gadd, job well done. We'll have another Last League correspondent for you next week as Ivo Graham picks up the correspondent's microphone.